I know a lot of people are still talking about this Sinners movie and are really upset with black Christians for not standing up to see the movie. People are really thinking that because you are a quote unquote black person here in America, that it is your obligation, it is your duty to support anything that's black. And like I said in a previous video, you don't understand what they're doing in Hollywood, and in particular, what they're doing through these quote unquote black movies like Sinners and this upcoming movie called Him, and what they started in Black Panther. They are intentionally driving the notion that Christianity is a white man's religion. It came with the colonizers. That is not good for you black people. So therefore, you have to turn to your ancestors. You have to turn to necromancy, speaking to the dead. You have to turn to soothsaying, divination. You have to turn to hoodoo, voodoo, all of those things in order to exercise your liberation. And see what has happened? See, when the black church, the church here in America, that quote unquote black church, which is not based on real Christianity, biblical Christianity, but is based upon this black liberation, Marxist theology stuff. When they decided to partner with the government and turn their backs on the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ, you open the door for this stuff to happen because you disconnected yourself from the power source. You disconnected yourself from the vine. You did. You did. You disconnected yourself from the vine. Jesus said, I am the vine, you are the branches. But you decided to disconnect. You were led astray, bamboozled, to disconnect yourself from the vine. And so therefore, you've been living off of the residual life coming from the vine, but you've been withering away. So therefore, the black church, which has withered away, its influence is no longer palpable in the community. Its influence is no longer visible in the community. Its influence is waning. I put it like this. It has no influence in the black community no more because people see through the fakeness of these black pastors. So what's going to happen when people who are looking, because people want to worship something. We are created to worship. And so people are going to naturally look to worship something, especially if you tell them over and over and over again that they are victims, that they are oppressed, that the system is out to get them, that the white man is out to get them. So they're going to turn to something to fill that gap. They're going to turn to something to empower themselves. And so what comes in? Oh, let us build up the worship of our ancestors. And you got, man, look, people, you got to understand the whole racket the devil has been doing. It started with the Black Power movement, but that wasn't really spiritually based. That was Marxist, that was hardcore communist based. And it kind of started slowly transitioning and morphing into this ancestral worship. And it reached its peak during the BLM movement. Because people like to focus on BLM and what they did in terms of wanting to dismantle the patriarchy and those kind of things. And that's demonic in and of itself. But what they don't understand is when those three lesbians said that they actually communicate, why do you think they walked around and said, say their name? They were grooming the community to start worshiping the ancestors. To download a free resource that talks about incorporating gold and silver and other precious metals into your retirement portfolio, please go to thebiblicalconservative.com/gold or click the link in the description.
Maybe I'm sharing too much, but we become very intimate with the spirits that we call on regularly, right? Like each of them seems to have a different presence and personality. You know, I laugh a lot with Waukesha, you know, and I didn't meet her in her body, right? I met her through this work.
It's a very important practice. Hashtags for us are way more than a hashtag. It is literally almost resurrecting a spirit so they can work through us to get the work that we need to get done. I started to feel personally connected and responsible and accountable to them, both from a deeply political place, but also from a deeply spiritual place. You know, and my tradition, you offer things that your loved one who passed away would want, you know, whether it's like honey or tobacco or things like that. And it's so important, not just for us to be in direct relationship to our people who've passed, but also for them to know we've remembered them. I believe so many of them work through us.
All this say your name stuff, say her name, say his name, say her name, say his name, that's chanting. That was grooming you, getting you in a mindset to start to buy into this stuff. Say her name, say his name. They're chanting, walking down the street, chanting this, chanting that. That was all intentional. See, the devil is slick. The devil's not going to give you something immediately that will lead to your destruction. He has to get you primed and ready for it. And so therefore, BLM was getting people primed and ready for it. And what happened right in 2018? Oh, Black Panther came out. Black Panther. And in Black Panther, you had a few things. Number one, you had the worship of the ancestors. That was big. False gods, witchcraft, hoodoo in Black Panther. Special flowers and those kinds of things. Going to see the dead, talking to the dead, necromancy. And you had the worship of women. See, it all ties together. But I missed it. I honestly missed it when I first saw the Black Panther movie. Because you get caught up in, oh man, it's the first quote unquote black superhero, even though it wasn't the first black superhero. You had Blade before that. But you had the first black superhero movie is black. Oh, you gotta support it. Black, 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 black. But when you sit back and think about it, you're like, hold up. They are introducing these concepts into the black community at a larger scale, and it's going over people's heads, especially people in the church, black Christians who are actually celebrating this stuff. So you move forward, you have George Floyd, that puts more gasoline on that fire. People no longer can trust their quote unquote church, because if your church wasn't standing firm for BLM and you were going against BLM, then your people are not going to go attend your church because you ain't black enough. And so now you have this Sinners movie, this supernatural movie that is anti-Christian, that has elements in it that are outright hostile to biblical Christianity. But because it's made by a black person, you have all these celebrities come out here saying Christians are being judgmental for talking about this movie. As a Christian, you shouldn't see anything that violates your conscience. You shouldn't see anything that glorifies evil. You shouldn't see anything that causes you to sin, because you're opening up yourself to the spirit realm illegally by doing this. But they're training Christians, especially black ones, to accept this hoodoo, this voodoo, this whole African spirituality stuff. It's syncretism. It started with syncretism, burning sage and candles and crystals and vibrations and all this stuff. And so that's where you have black people now more conscious, the conscious community, as they say, more conscious of their spirituality and rejecting Christianity. And that was a plan all along. And the black church played into it. The black church played into it. The black church played into it and have allowed this generation of black people to now identify themselves more with African spirituality. And as a matter of fact, you have preachers in the pulpit talking about our ancestors. Think about that. So that's where we are. So that's why this Sinners movie, black Christians who are sensitive to what's going on, the sons of Issachar who know what's going on, who are perceiving what's really going on in the community, how this Sinners movie is the latest example of them trying to turn us away from Christianity to drive out Jesus, the real Jesus, out of the black community. So naturally, you can get upset with us for pointing this out because we're exposing the agenda that's behind this. Because the sole purpose of this agenda is to make black people victims. This is what happened in the past. You have to understand something. That's why God wanted the children of Israel not to buy into these practices. Because once you connect with the devil with these demonic practices, you are now a slave to the devil. You're opening yourself up to evil in a way that you cannot handle. You are partnering with the devil. So that's why God tells us to come out from among them and be ye separate, says the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing. That's why. Not being judgmental. Not saying that we're better. And when people say you're being judgmental, you got to ask them this question. People judge stuff every day. When you're saying I'm being judgmental, you're judging me. You're being judgmental by saying I'm being judgmental. We judge stuff every single day. We don't condemn. That's the difference. But there is a sinister agenda afoot to convert black people into this African spirituality. That's the whole point behind it. That's the whole point behind the Sinners movie, the whole point behind BLM, the whole point behind Black Panther, the whole point behind this upcoming Him movie. It's all intended. It's not about, now I know some people like to say it's about the anti-white statement. That's part of it. But really the true purpose of it is to get black people out of Christianity and back into this whole African spirituality, hoodoo and voodoo stuff, because they want to make us victims. We're not victims. We are empowered for greatness.